Hi guys, today we're going to be talking about how the wealth of America, that top 5% of Americans grows their money versus how the other 95% of Americans grow their money. So 80% of Americans are growing their money like this at a fixed rate, and they keep growing their money in the bank. And you might be wondering, is it really growing in the bank? Yes, guys, it is growing at a whopping 0.0035%. Now, the last time I Googled inflation, that was 9%, but I think that's even higher than 9%, honestly. And so if your money is growing at 0.0035% and inflation is 9%, guys, you're losing value really fast. And that is what 80% of Americans is doing. They're losing value in their money really fast. Now, 15% of Americans likes to grow their money, usually their retirement money, in an environment that looks like that, and that is the stock market. And they do it in the hopes that when they retire, they're going to retire at one of these peaks. Unfortunately, when there's a market crash like in 2008, those that had planned to retire then found they had to work an additional 9 years to recoup those market losses. So yes, it has great growth potential, but that does come at a risk. Now, the wealth of America, that top 5% of Americans, they don't like to risk their wealth, and they definitely would never grow it at such a small rate. They wouldn't let somebody hold all of their money and only grow it at that rate of return. So the wealth of America likes to use something called index accounts to grow their money. And there's lots of different indexes like the S&P 500, the Dow, the PIMCO. There's lots of different ones. Now, for the sake of this example, I'll explain how they work. So, like the S&P 500, for example, are the top 500 publicly traded companies on the stock market, and the index is their average performance from one year to the next. So, the way their money grows in an index account is very different. Now, the indexes, they go up, they go down, just like the market, but your money grows very differently with an index account. So they put, this side represents your money and this side represents time. So if they put their money in here, let's say the index goes up 5%, their money goes up 5%. When the index goes back down, instead of losing any money they gained, their money stays where it last grew. Then let's say they have a 12% increase in the index, their money goes up 12%. Again, that following year, let's say it was an 8% negative year, they lose zero because they have a 0% floor. They can't lose a dime. Again, and this continues. And so their money grows in a staircase. This is how the wealth of America has been compounding interest and growing their money since 1904. While the rest of America, the rest of the 95% of Americans, have been trying to grow their money here and here. And when there's economic downturns, there's a huge transfer of wealth. Right now, we're experiencing some issues with the banks where there's been other bank failures. They're not making the news anymore. So you'll just hear, oh, your bank changed names. It got acquired by another bank. That was a bank failure. But it doesn't make the news anymore. So just be aware of that. So a lot of people liked to keep their money in the bank before because they thought, oh, it's safe. So let me explain quickly how the FDIC insures your money at $250,000. A lot of people don't really know how that works. So if there's a bank failure, they have 5 days to get acquired by another bank or bought out. Now, if no other bank agrees to buy them, then what happens is then it goes into the, you have to put in an FDIC claim. Now, you're not going to automatically just boom, get all of your money back. That's not the way it works. What happens is you put in a claim and then they decide how many years they get to pay you. So they could say, oh, we're going to pay you back for 80 years and give you $50 a month payments until you're paid up. So your obligations are not factored in. That doesn't even matter. That's in the terms and conditions you never read. Come to you in email. Yeah, I don't read them either, but it's in there. Okay, and stock market money in brokerage accounts are insured by SIPC Insurance, and they're insured up to $500,000. Again, same system, you would have to put in a claim. Now, with these investment grade insurance companies, when you put your money in, these insurance companies, some of them have been around since 1896. 1932, they've weathered the Great Depression, World Wars. They're very solid financially. And this is why the Wealth of America puts their money there, because they know they don't just go bankrupt, right? They have very strict reserve requirements. March 26th of 2020, the Federal Reserve changed reserve requirements for all depository institutions, that's all banks and credit unions, to zero. That means they don't have to keep any of your money in reserves. Investment grade insurance companies have to keep all of the money they're expected to pay out that year in a reserve account. They also have to have 3 reinsurance companies that have already agreed to take on the contracts that insurance company has in place if they should fail. That's why they don't fail. That's why they've been around since 1896, 1934. We have another one, 1959. I'm a broker, so I work with all of them, and of course I look at how economically sound they are before I decide to do business with them. And so this is where the Wealth of America keeps their money. They open these accounts for their kids when they're 2 weeks old, as soon as they get a social security number. If you'd like to make sure you're growing your retirement money in an index account like the wealthy do, not taking these huge risks and helping that transfer of wealth that just keeps happening. Guys, during the Great Depression, the wealthy didn't struggle. They didn't. It was the other 95%. In these difficult economic downturns, it's extremely risky to stay here. So if you want to protect yourself, now a lot of people might say, oh, you only have like a 2%, 3% return. A lot of the a lot of the investment grade insurance companies that we're doing business with have a 10-year rate of average rate of return of anywhere 13.9% with one, 10.7% with the other. So with the wealthy, don't really accept small returns either. So it's important to see what they're doing, how they're protecting themselves, and how they're staying wealthy. They know what they're doing. So anyway, that's how 95% of Americans grow their money versus how the top 5%, the Wealth of America, does. Reach out to me if you'd like to know how to protect your assets, how to protect your retirement like the wealthy do. I'd love to help you.